RC from the Mountaintop Joiner Shop here. You may have heard me say in earlier videos that I did something or other by hand. And if that thing ultimately looks like I did it by hand, then that's fine. It's kind of the point. Now I'm sure that last sentence caught at least a few of you off guard, and if you're one of those people, you might be wondering why I keep saying that. Isn't the point of craftsmanship to make everything as perfectly as possible? Well, yes, but there are other points to it as well. Points that I often find get overlooked in our problematic tendency to try to simplify everything down to black and white terms. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. I'm going to open up that big old can of worms and try to better define what craftsmanship is, what woodworking is, and I'm going to make a case for why you should care about one of these and not the other, but not too much. And I'm going to explain why I use so many hand tools, and why that probably shouldn't matter to anyone but me and my customers. See how this goes. Now before I get down to business, I feel I should issue a disclaimer that this is one of those talking head videos. If you're here for some hot woodworking action where I cut dovetail after dovetail after dovetail, that's a different video. I've done some of that in my other videos, and I will certainly do more of that in the future, but that's not what this video is. This video has words in it. Lots and lots of words. In fact, I'm going to get downright philosophical. Hell, I might even wax poetic. Whatever that means. And so here's the deal. I use hand tools a lot, and there are a lot of reasons for that. For one, I started woodworking with next to no money to spend and no space to put anything. You can build up a pretty capable hand tool collection in one tool at a time installments, whereas seldom in my life have I had enough disposable income all at once to buy that planer joiner combo with the helical head that I've always wanted. That's not to say I've never had machines in my shop. There was a time I had a router table and a sliding compound miter saw and even a table saw. And just like that, I was out of space and a little bit nervous about losing a finger. Then, stop me if you heard this one before, I read this book, The Anarchist Tool Chest by Christopher Schwarz. And by the end of this book, he had me swooning over all the hand tools and selling off my table saw. There's a certain romance to hand tools that, while not unique to the craft of woodworking, is nevertheless increasingly rare in this modern age of digital wizardry and mechanized mass manufacture. For one, in picking up a hand tool and applying it to a piece of wood, you're taking part in a tradition that goes back centuries, millennia even. Our entire civilization was largely and quite literally built on this tradition. Author Eric Sloan put it quite nicely when he said, "Wood was not accepted simply as the material for building a new nation. It was an inspiration. Gentle to touch, exquisite to contemplate, tractable and creative hands, stronger by weight than iron, wood was, what William Penn had said, a substance with a soul. It spanned rivers for man, it built his home and heated it in the winter. Man walked on wood, slept on it, sat on wooden chairs at wooden tables, drank and ate the fruits of trees from wooden cups and dishes. From cradle of wood to coffin of wood, the life of man was encircled by it." Evidence of this vast tradition has surrounded us our whole lives in the form of historic buildings, furniture in museums, and even floating on the seas. To take part in it, in even the most modest way, is something I think is incredibly special. There's something else special about hand tool use. Let me be so bold as to argue that an item has craft value largely to the extent, not only, but largely to the extent it is made by hand. Take, for example, hand-cut dovetails. If they turn out machine perfect, that's fine, I guess, but it's even better and far more likely if they turn out something less than that. What I mean by that is we've been conditioned to believe that things that are mass-produced by machinery to a high degree of precision are quote-unquote perfectly made. The human element has been removed from their manufacture as much as possible. The subtle inconsistencies inherent in things made by the human hand are absent. But to that extent, so is the craft value. A plastic spoon can be absolutely perfectly made and without a perceptible flaw, but it's typically the hand-carved wooden one that actually has value to us. To hold it, to use it, to feel its texture and observe its organic variable color and texture connects us subconsciously to the tree that it came from, as well as the skilled but fallible human that crafted it. I guess that's why I spend so much time hand-cutting dovetails, only to have them turn out less than machine perfect. I'd rather my work exhibit that I value imperfect craftsmanship over machine-made perfection. I'm only human after all, and so are the people that live with and use the things that I make. That's a good thing. Craftsmanship is risk. Risk is an integral part of all of our lives. Therefore, craftsmanship is for all of us. Oh, I got a little metaphysical at the end there, and I'm not entirely sure that actually made any sense. Anywho, I find hand-shaping wood to be one of those simple pleasures in life. I also find the end result to be a bit paradoxical. Even if I do an excellent job, it won't be perfect in the usual sense. And that's kind of the point. If all goes well, perhaps it'll be perfect in a made by a fallible yet earnest, if not well-practiced human kind of way. A person who works like this for long enough can often spot even an immaculate hand-cut dovetail or a hand-shaped cabriole leg from a distance. But even to the casual viewer, I'd like to think that something about these things still registers in their subconscious. And that something can't be produced by a machine. This is because that something is something unapologetically human. There's a certain honesty there that I really appreciate. That, and to be honest, my powered router scares me a little bit sometimes. This brings me to my next point, and some of you who liked what I just said about hand tools and craft value probably aren't going to like it, but so be it. We in the woodworking community are prone to this thing called gatekeeping. We'll be scrolling through social media and see something somebody made on a CNC machine, and we just can't help ourselves, and we just have to type, "That's not woodworking." I've had to resist this urge myself, because I know that to the extent that I use my powered router or my thickness planer, I'm not woodworking either, I'm wood machining. But to go out of your way to tell someone that just isn't helping anyone, and misses an important point. And that point is, so what? So what if it isn't technically woodworking according to some of our semantic sensibilities? We're all in this craft for different reasons. Some of us are swept up in the romance of hand tools. Some of us have a creative vision that we want to express, and we'll use any tool, machine or otherwise, to help us get there. Some of us are all about the process of making something out of nothing. Some of us are tinkerers and like to figure out the puzzle of bringing something difficult to make into the world. Some of us approach the craft from the mindset of an engineer or a machinist, and making something to the highest degree of precision possible is what gets us out of bed in the morning. Some of us are into it for many of these reasons, or even all of them at different times. I find myself sliding along the spectrum towards machine use more and more these days because I have so many creative ideas that I want to express, and I want to get them all out into the world before I'm 6 feet under. That said, there will always be an important role in my work for hand tools. The only way to ensure my dovetails come out consistently is to cut them consistently. And that is best done with machines. But what I'm calling the craft value paradox has its own gravitational pull. I've always hand cut my dovetails and hand shaped furniture parts to the best of my ability, aiming for machine-like accuracy. Yet if the finished product gives subtle hints that it was done by hand by a fallible, though earnest human, well, that's kind of why I did it that way in the first place. I hope that makes sense. So if your hand-cut dovetails aren't machine perfect, you have no reason to be ashamed, in my opinion. While they look neat and can be a chance to show off your skill, in the end they just need to hold the drawer together. And even when they're a little gappy here and there, they still do a good job of that. As for hand shaping things, shape, texture, and color are all part of the design palette. At their best, they all work in concert with the natural grain patterns already present in the unique, natural, once living medium that is wood. To my mind, this is one of many reasons woodworking never gets old. You can spend a lifetime involved in this craft and never exhaust all the possibilities. There are the objective possibilities of joinery, structure, scale, and function, and there are the subjective possibilities, which encompass all of the above and more. The craftsman then uses acquired skill and knowledge to weave these disparate elements into something that spurs an eternal debate. What is art? Where does craft end and art begin? How do we neatly classify the things we make? Why are we compelled to do so in the first place? What purpose does that serve? On and on it goes. Or you can forget all of that, put yourself in the moment, and simply enjoy the spontaneous making of something for the sheer pleasure of it, whether it's via big picture contemplation or a mindful focus on the present moment, whether it's by hand or by machine. I'm of the opinion that there's plenty to be said in favor of all of these approaches to the craft, and it very well may be at its best when all of them are employed. The work of the human hand will always have an important place in our environment. The reasons for that fill whole volumes, and all of them approach the subject from different angles and draw varying conclusions. Some are pragmatic. Some wander so far into the metaphysical weeds that they can't find their way out again. It's all a conundrum. But if there's a common thread, I think it might be this. The craftsmanship of risk is a good thing. Erasing it from everyday life comes to the detriment of the human condition. Not quite perfect is a good thing if and when it speaks to your humanity. So embrace the humanity in your craft. And hopefully, those who encounter your work in the future will feel the warmth. Thank you for watching. Now, if you like what you saw here, please hit like and subscribe. It would help me out a lot. Also hit the little bell icon if you want to be notified anytime I release a new video. And if you didn't like what you saw here, keep it to yourself, pal. Or watch one of my other videos. You might like one of those. Thank you for watching.